Today we're going to be talking about mixing, the good, better, and best of sourdough mixing. So if your dough tears like this during the final preparation in order for cold proof, it's actually not fermentation. It's going to be mixing, in my experience. And by mixing, I mean your stretch and folds or your coil folds, whatever you like to do, whatever your preference is during bulk. That's actually where your gluten strength is built. Let me walk you through some of these indicators for what we consider good. And even with undermixing, I wouldn't say that this is good. I would say that this is good that you're mixing. Let's continue with a few more stretch and folds or coil fold. But what you're going to be looking for is going to be the window pane test. So I like to do a window pane test in between my stretch and folds to kind of just see what the dough is telling me. In the good category, you're going to see that if you were to do the window pane test at this stage with undermixed, that you'll get that dough to tear quickly doing that test. It's going to be rougher, it's going to be shaggy in texture. This literally looks like it was just mixed and you're setting it down for its first like full hour, 45 minutes to an hour rest before you start your stretch and folds. Again, I'm calling it good just because, like, good, you got everything in a bowl and you put it together. But we all would know, hopefully, even as beginners at this stage, that you're going to need to perform a few rounds of stretch and folds to get this dough into something that's going to look properly mixed, or better or best. But anyway, you're going to see that it would tear quickly. It's going to be rough and shaggy in texture. It's going to be dull. It's not going to look as kind of shiny as the properly mixed dough. It'll break easily when you stretch it. And if you were to bake at this stage, your final crumb would be dense. It would be uneven. It wouldn't be a great bread. I would still eat it because I eat everything I bake, even if it doesn't turn out, but you wouldn't enjoy it as much as you would or will if you had a better or even a best mix, which is shown with the properly mixed. For better, which I'll show an example of better. So for better, this is actually a mix that I worked on this weekend. This is probably the second or third stretch and fold. So it's clearly better. The surface is going to be a little bit smoother. The dough had a lot of elasticity to it, if I remember correctly, during this particular section of stretch and folds. And I actually used coil folds for this specific dough, but it stretched a bit more. There was no tearing. There was a partial window pane that I could tell. I could see that it was gaining strength. And if I was to stop here and let it go into its final bulk fermentation, my end loaf would probably get kind of a decent oven spring from that perspective. So back to this slide. If you look at the properly mixed, that's going to be our best dough mixing. This is the best reference. Now for visual, you're gonna see that the dough is smooth. It's got a cohesive surface. It's actually slightly taut. It stretches thin and translucent. This particular mix would stretch thin and translucent if you did the window pane test, but it's gonna have just a bit of resistance. That's gonna be that gluten that's been worked in. The dough is going to actually be trapping gas. That's what you want. Fermentation creates gas, gluten holds that gas there. For most beginners, proper mixing is actually going to mean 3 to 5 sets of proper stretch and folds or coil folds. There is a lot of factors that come into play here when it comes to temperature, etc. But like lots of recipes will call for about 3 to 4 rounds of stretch and folds. And for most beginners, until you kind of start to learn the feel of the dough and how to know when it's ready, you're going to need that. But you'll stop when it's smooth and when it passes that window pane test. If your bulk looked right, but your crumb is kind of tight at the very end, and I'll also, again, in subsequent videos, show some of the crumb differences. But if your crumb looks really tight after you bake, you probably stopped at good instead of best. So we'll talk about that in more videos, but we're going to move into bulk fermentation next.